Hey les amis, j'espère que vous allez bien. Personnellement, ça va super bien. Moi, c'est Dylan. Vous le savez, Chris Tyler, Dixon. Bon, j'ai tellement de noms que maintenant, même moi, je me perds. Mais ce n'est pas l'objet de cette vidéo. Aujourd'hui, les amis, on se retrouve pour une nouvelle édition du WWE Report. Mais surtout, les amis, le retour des interviews exclusives avec mon compagnon Kevin. Comment tu vas, mon ami?
Ça va très bien aujourd'hui.
Yes, et ça va encore mieux car on accueille quelqu'un qui est super important pour nous, mais surtout pour le monde du catch aujourd'hui, car cet homme, vous le connaissez peut-être pas ou vous le connaissez, mais entre autres, c'est un peu comme le père, je dirais, de Rated R Superstar and Charisma Father, because this man coaching the greatest superstar of all time, Edge, Christian, Rhino, and more of that superstars. That man is W3All, the Jewel Wrestling, the legend, Joe E. freaking Legend. How are you?
Oh, that's a big deal intro. I hope I can live up to it. Yeah, thanks for having me on, guys. I guess for those who don't know me, professional name Joey Legend, been wrestling 30 years in 46 countries. Been to France 64, 65 times, something like that. To England 138 times, to Japan 15 times, plus, I had a contract with WWE and Impact, which is called Impact now. It used to be TNA. Been around the block a few times, traveled all over the world, and helped train a lot of names like you mentioned, like Edge and Christian and that, and I've run seminars and worked out with a lot of different guys who've gone on to do very well, whether it was in Impact, WWE, Japan, what have you. So I think I'm fairly qualified to have a good voice in what wrestling is.
Yeah. For me, my first of all, wrestling watching is WWE. So
It's the biggest one.
my first match I watching is Randy Orton versus Edge. So
Should be strong.
I fall in the TV and I watching this match for the first time and I tell, what is that sport?
It's totally unique. There's nothing quite like it.
Yeah, and after that, 15 years after that, I love that sport. So I I'm go to do it. So I'm happy to do it now.
Yeah, I'm glad you are. You're working hard every time we've trained together.
Yeah.
You work really hard, do well, so just stick with it. The lockdown isn't helping us. But, just stay in shape, keep working hard, keep watching and learning from what you can see. YouTube is a valuable resource for looking up some interesting wrestling that isn't just WWE, but, all kinds of different styles all over the world. There's always something to learn from somewhere.
Yeah.
And then when we hit the ring, you're in shape, you've got a bunch of ideas, and we can really jump forward right away.
Yeah. Kevin, tu veux rajouter quelque chose?
Yeah, like you said it, you travel a lot in Asia, in Europe, in America,
Africa.
other countries.
Africa.
Yes, you also trained a lot of wrestler, because, like you said it, and so you have experienced a lot of sort of wrestling. You know a lot about wrestling.
There are a lot of different styles, yeah.
Yes, it's a great thing.
Yeah, it's good because like when I started watching wrestling, I'm from Toronto originally, Toronto, Canada. All we had locally was, as far as big deal wrestling, was WWF. At the time, now WWE was WWF back then, and we had the Sheik, the original Sheik, Sabu's uncle. He
Yeah.
ran Big Time Wrestling from Detroit, and they would come up to Toronto, to Scarborough, my area.
One of the most brutal wrestler of all time.
Yeah, probably the biggest heel. Oh,
Mick Foley, Sabu, Razor Ramon.
He absolutely scared. I mean, nowadays I'd meet him and be a different animal. But as a kid, he was effective. He scared the absolute crap out of me. But those were the only two wrestlers we really watched. Those were the only ones around. Like NWA, you had to get a black and white TV and get an aerial and try and catch a signal from way down in New York State to watch NWA, which I did because I was such a big wrestling fan. Then AWA started showing up on TSM, which is the sports network in Canada. So we'd watch AWA on there, and then the international wrestling from Montreal showed up where the Rougeaus were from. And BC All-Star Wrestling from Western Canada, and Stampede Wrestling, Bret Hart's family's company. And, it started off with just going, I guess WWF is wrestling. And then I took a step back and looked at it, and there's tons of it, and so different. Each one different from the next. So that when I went to, my first big international trip was Japan for FMW. I had never seen anything like that. I was so not prepared. I had my basics down, I could get by, but I'd never seen anything like that. It was a real learning curve, and I have to say, Sabu was such a huge help. So I just want to give a big thanks to Sabu on here. He doesn't get the credit he deserves for being the good man that he is.
Yeah, Sabu, I tell that before, because Sabu is one of the brutal specimen of his freaking wrestling world.
He's out of his mind. He's out of his mind. And to be honest, I don't think there would have been. I don't think you'd have the X division today or the junior divisions or what have you. I don't know how Ring of Honor might have panned out if Sabu didn't pave the way for juniors to be main event guys. I don't know if WWE would have even taken a risk on a guy like Shawn Michaels, who obviously is quite popular and done fairly well for himself. But he was always small, and Vince always liked big guys. And Sabu came out, and just with his crazy style, he got the whole Attitude Era off the ground with his extreme style, like getting the ECW thing. He's the one who made everybody turn heads and go, what the hell is this? This isn't, farmers and plumbers and everything WWF was doing. He brought a very different thing and showed that a smaller guy who was willing to commit to big things could be a main event superstar. So I think, Shawn Michaels should maybe tip the hat just a little bit, saying, thank you, Sabu. You really kicked open some doors, or even broke through some doors with a chair and a hammer or whatever. But he opened a lot of doors that a lot of small guys didn't have the chance to go through before. So they owe him the debt of gratitude.
I know.
We didn't know that about Sabu, but he did a lot for wrestling and for WWE, as you said it.
Yeah, he was supposed to go years ago. Do you remember the Sultan?
Rikishi, yeah, the father of the Usos.
Yeah, but he was supposed to be. They had a gimmick called the Sultan, and he was supposed to be this, Middle Eastern Sultan, right? Like an emperor of a Middle Eastern country. And he wore a mask, like a mask over this part of his face. And that was originally offered to Sabu. And Sabu said, no, I don't like the style here. And he left. So they gave it to Rikishi. But he was originally supposed to go back to WWE in 1994, 1995. But he was doing too well in Japan for FMW and Philadelphia for ECW and all his indie stuff. He'd forged his own career. He didn't need WWE. I kind of admire him for saying, no, I'm not interested. I'd rather do my thing. He's a complete rebel. He's very Bruiser Brody in his independent spirit.
Yeah. Dis-lui, on va poser donc la toute première question à Joe, donc je la pose en français, Kevin traduira évidemment. Donc première question, comment ça a commencé tout ça? Comment tu t'es dit comme ça du jour au lendemain, je vais devenir catcheur?
Why did you start training, and when did you start training?
Well, my brother started watching WWF. WWF used to be on Saturday mornings at 12 and 1 o'clock. So early afternoon, I guess. And I was at karate class at the time. I was doing karate and kung fu. So I wasn't really watching it. My brother was watching it all the time, and it was kind of driving me a little bit nuts. And my dad kept saying, oh, yeah, I used to go see this as a kid, blah, blah, blah. So eventually, my dad started taking me to those shows the Sheik ran. And I just kind of fell in love with it immediately. I was like, holy, this is fantastic. Like, I love this stuff. So I started getting interested in it there, and then WWF obviously, took off huge. So I was following that, and then I started getting all the magazines, and who's Ric Flair? That's NWA. What's NWA? AWA? What's Kurt Hennig? I don't know who these people are. Nick Bockwinkel, Harley Race, who the hell are they? So I started doing my homework and research again, and this is all before the internet. So it was harder to get a hold of tapes. You had, to trade tapes and buy tapes from people and stuff, and magazines and all this crap. So that I wound up kind of educating myself into being interested in it. And then I decided, 16, 17 years old, I was like, yeah, I really want to do this. I hated sitting in a classroom. And I didn't like the idea of possibly sitting in an office the rest of my life. I'm afraid of four walls. I don't want to sit there and just stare at the same four walls, talk to the same, 10 people in the same office about the same hockey games every day of my life. That's just, to me, that's a curse. I can't do that. I want to see the world. I want to, have some fun. I want to, do athletic and physical things and get paid for it. I want to travel. And so I decided, when I was about 16 or 17, I decided this is what I want to do. And then there was no place to train in Toronto. Like, I was looking around, couldn't find anything. And then WWF, on one of their shows, announced that there was a training school, which was too far for me to go to, but it was in Ontario, so it was a start. So then eventually I just went into the phone book and started looking up wrestling gyms, and I found two. And one was Mac Maya's gym, and one was Sully's gym, where Ron Hutchison and Sweet Daddy Siki were trainers. So I went to have a look at Mac Maya's gym, and he had a great setup. He had a ring, and he had weights, and he had all this stuff, and he talked a big game. And then he started telling me how he had trained Big John Studd. And I was like, wait a second. That's not true. I know Killer Kowalski trained Big John. You didn't train Big John. What the hell is this? So I started, I'm not sure if I want to trust this guy. He's already fibbing me of this. So I went to check out the other gym, Siki and Rod. And they were totally straight and honest with me. I told him, Mac Maya said he trained Studd, but I know that Kowalski did. And they're like, yeah, it sounds like Mac. But, like, just the way it is. Guys in this industry will try to work you over. But they said, we're not promising anything. We're not promising you $1 million. We're not promising you a big contract. We're promising you that we'll train you to the best of our abilities. You'll do as well as your effort and your athleticism will allow you. And we'll do what we can to kick open some doors, but you've got to walk through and you've got to shine when you get through those doors. And I just love that honesty. So I decided to train with them. So I started training with them in 1990. I was working 3 jobs and going to college, so I was totally burnt there, and going to wrestling training. So I burnt myself out doing that, but I did it. And then in 92, I had my first couple of matches, and then I had 3 matches, and then I went to Japan for FMW. Do you remember Tiger Ali Singh?
Ali Singh?
Tiger Ali Singh.
No, I don't know.
Yeah, he did kind of a $1 million man gimmick. He was the rich Asian, pay Americans to kiss his feet and stuff like that.
Okay.
He's the son of Tiger Jeet Singh, who's an icon in Japan.
Okay.
He's one of the greatest stars in Japan. Tiger asked me if I could help train Tiger Ali Singh at the gym in Toronto, because they live out in Milton, which is, I don't know, less than an hour from Toronto. So I was in there 5 days a week, because I was bouncing at that point, and I was working in bars in the evening. So I had all my days free. So I started training Tiger Ali Singh there for every day of the week, 5 days a week, 5 days of the week. Then on the weekends, he would come and do the training with us Saturday and Sunday where we'd learn. And I'd do it again. After a couple weeks, Tiger took his son. He said, okay, I like what he can do. I'm taking him to Japan. I'm like, are you sure? Like, I know I'm not ready. How do you know he's ready? He's like, he's got the Tiger name. Everything you taught him, he can do really well. And he can swing a chair. He'll be great for FMW. You're the boss. So they went, and Tiger Jeet Singh and Tiger Ali Singh did the tag tournament, did very well. And so Tiger, who had never promised me anything, he just asked me to do him a favor, help train his son. I got called into the office by my trainers, we did Siki and Ron both. And they said, do you have a passport? I'm like, no. They go, get one. I'm like, why? They go, you're going to Japan. I was like, hey? I said, yeah, Tiger wants to say thank you for training his son, so he's opened a door for you to go to Japan for FMW. And that's how I got into Japan, and then having Japan on my resume so early opened up doors in Michigan and New York State and Ohio and everywhere else. It kicked open a lot of doors for me. But it was due to Tiger Jeet Singh. He didn't have to. All he had to do was say thank you, shake my hand, and I was happy. But he went out of his way to be nice and kick open a door for me, and I'm grateful to him for it. I always make sure to say it.
Okay.
It's great. You started early to train other wrestlers.
Well, I was helping at Ron and Sully's gym, Ron Siki's gym. I was helping train people because I was the first guy who got out of the gym to get matches. So I went to Japan. When I came back, I ended up going to Winnipeg for a month. So when I get to the gym, Ron Siki would have me train the guys. And then when Ron and Siki would get really hung up on the basics, which in hindsight, I totally agree with. At the time, I was like, no, what about a Frankensteiner? The guys wanted to learn more than just the basics, more than just a headlock, more than just a hip toss. So we'd wait until Ron and Siki went into the office. And, okay, guys, let me show you some shit. And I showed them all some really cool stuff. And then Ron and Siki get mad at me, like, they're not ready for that. And I was like, of course they are. Turns out they weren't. Ron and Siki were right. But I ended up being a trainer there, like helping them train guys. And I'd also been teaching, because I have 4 black belts in karate and kung fu. So I was used to teaching people martial arts. So it wasn't too much of a shift to start teaching people the wrestling as well.
Ouais, il avait 4 ceintures noires en kung fu en fait. Donc ça lui permettait de vraiment apprendre aux jeunes catcheurs à catcher ou même les bases, on va dire, de cette discipline.
Ah, c'est super, franchement, vous voyez, en plus de l'interview, les amis, nous-mêmes, on apprend des choses. Vous voyez ce que je voulais dire? En fait, ce qui est bien avec une interview, c'est ce que j'aime, c'est vraiment, pour moi, ce n'est pas juste une interview, c'est aussi apprendre vraiment des choses importantes sur la personne qu'on interviewe. N'est-ce pas, Kev? T'en penses quoi, toi?
Yes, we learned a lot about you and about the legends that you met, like you said, in Japan.
Mm-hmm.
And when was you said that your first match was in 1992 in Japan? It was in Japan?
That was my first tour. My first match was actually for Tiger Jeet Singh in Ontario. Before that, I think it was June. There was a big Indian festival in Brantford, Ontario, which has a huge Indian population. And so Tiger was going to main event that. And they had 10,000 people at this festival. The wrestling wasn't the only. There was a lot of different Indian cultural things, but the wrestling was there too. So I was going to wrestle my first match with my friend Keith, who wrestled under the name Zach Wild, Johnny Destiny as well. So we were going to wrestle each other, opening match, second match, something like that. Fortunately, Ron, our trainer, was our referee. So you go your first match, you're a bit nervous. You have your trainer there as your referee. It makes things easy. But it started raining outside. So like, oh, gee whiz, people are going to be hot. They want to see Tiger. And what if it rains heavy? So what they did was they pulled our match and they put Tiger in ahead of us.
Okay.
So Tiger went and wrestled Silent Brian McNee, Ontario's only deaf wrestler. Super nice guy. So Tiger wrestled Brian McNee, and the crowd went crazy for him. And then they put Keith and I out last. So we kind of main evented inadvertently because of the weather.
Yeah.
We made it our first show ever. It's both our first match in front of 10,000 Indians. And I was probably the worst babyface in history. I remember specifically, I hit a drop kick and the crowd cheered and I got up and I went.
Ah, c'est très difficile. C'est très difficile d'imaginer.
It was totally terrible babyface. The match got over, the place, they cheered and applauded. But I go back and I watch that match and go, wow, I did not know what I was doing as far as working with the crowd. I knew my holds, my moves, and timing, I guess, to a degree. But I didn't know anything about keeping the crowd involved. We just lucked out. It was a short match. And Ron was there. Keith was great as far as being in my ear, but Ron was there. It was great to keep us grounded and less nervous. But that was my first match, was in front of that huge crowd.
Je disais que c'était très difficile en fait d'imaginer, parce que quand on a commencé à te connaître, Joe, disons que on s'est dit direct qu'il est heal, direct. Et du coup c'est très difficile d'imaginer.
Watched a lot of video of your matches. It's quite difficult to imagine that you one time
happen a good man.
For us, you have always been a top heel.
Yeah, now I'm just a big ham, but I've just done it long enough that I'm comfortable out there. My first match, I was not comfortable. So in turn, I just internalized everything. But it just comes with practice and with repetition. Repetition's the mother of skill. It's kind of one of my catchphrases as far as a trainer goes. And just working all the time, especially going out to Winnipeg and working for Candello on those death tours. That helped immensely because you're working every night for an entire month in front of roomfuls of kids. So you've got to work the crowd and you got to learn how to get your timing and work with the crowd. And it was super valuable. Coming back from Japan, obviously Japan helped me immensely. But Japan helped me to know how to do a brutal style. Winnipeg and doing all the northern Manitoba stuff taught me how to do an entertaining style. And then I could mesh the two so that I could be a TV style. Where I could look rough and tough and mean and nasty, but at the same time could always work with the crowd so I wasn't ignoring the crowd too. So working for Candello at Winnipeg, that was always helpful.
Ok. Je vois beaucoup...
Travailler au Japon, en fait, ça m'a beaucoup aidé à travailler devant les gens. À la télé aussi, ça l'a beaucoup aidé aussi à être heel, c'est-à-dire
être méchant dans le ring.
Parce que heel, c'est pas juste faire le méchant, voilà, c'est aussi travailler avec le public. Et il a aussi appris à beaucoup travailler avec le public, ce qui
c'est le plus important, c'est le plus important dans le catch.
Très inconfortable avec le fait de travailler avec le public.
Ouais, c'est le plus important dans le catch, que tu sois face ou que tu sois heel, c'est vraiment important de travailler avec le public. C'est la base, en fait. C'est vraiment la base du catch. D'ailleurs, en parlant de ça, j'ai vraiment une question que je vois beaucoup, que ça soit sur Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Snap, WhatsApp, vraiment des questions que je vois vraiment beaucoup. Il y a des gens qui demandent ce que c'est un bon match. Et du coup, j'aimerais vraiment poser la question à Joe, qu'est-ce que pour lui un bon match de catch?
What is for you a good match?
Well, it varies. It depends on what you're trying to get across. If you're trying to get across just here's a dominant wrestler or dominant team, then I'd say the Road Warriors had good matches because they went out there and got over. The crowd knew who they were and the crowd believed them. If your object is to take an inexperienced guy and make him look like a star, then anything to do with Ric Flair, he was able to take Lex Luger, who was green as grass, and made him look a main event superstar, doing like 60 and 90-minute matches in Florida in his first year, and making a star out of Sting.
Yeah, the icon.
Just at length of it. Sting will tell you every day of the week that Flair made him. And Sting's a great guy. I like Steve a lot. But, so it's what you want to qualify the match with. As far as just entertainment value and closing an angle, Savage Steamboat at WrestleMania 3 was a masterpiece. You know, that was just brilliant. Flair Sting at the first Clash of Champions when Flair made Sting, 45-minute draw, like that was a masterpiece. The Flair Steamboat series in '89, they had 3 matches throughout. Steamboat won the belt, defended the belt, lost the belt. Magnificent. And then you followed it up by turning Flair face and working with Terry Funk, and then they had those brutal matches, the I Quit match. Those were great. But they all had different goals in mind of what they were trying to accomplish. So it depends on what you're trying to accomplish with. I mean, just for cheap, cheesy, fun entertainment, the Bushwhackers. They always got over kids.
Yeah.
They're great guys.
The Bushwhackers.
Yeah. But, I mean, you wouldn't say that they were magnificent matches as far as, oh, who's going to win? Oh, my God, what athleticism. But as far as just getting over with the crowd, they did all the time. So, you know, a great match is subjective. Depends on what you're trying to get over. A championship match should be different than an opening match, but both can be awesome in their own way.
Yeah. Clairement, franchement, honnêtement, après tu...
En fait,
Vas-y,
voilà,
continue.
en fait, le but, c'est-à-dire, faut raconter une histoire. Tout dépend de ce que tu veux raconter. Il a cité pour lui les meilleurs matchs. C'était par exemple Ric Flair qui lui arrivait à mettre over un catcheur qui était plutôt débutant comme Lex Luger. Il arrivait à mettre over des gens vraiment qui n'avaient rien à voir avec le business. Il a cité le match de Ric Flair Steamboat, les 3 matchs de Ric Flair contre Ricky the Dragon Steamboat en 1989. Ric Flair Sting à Clash of Champions. Voilà plein de matchs comme ça qui sont pour lui les meilleurs matchs qu'il a vus. Et pour lui, voilà, tout dépend de ce que tu veux raconter. Si tu veux faire vraiment un match plutôt drôle, tu peux prendre l'exemple des Bushwhackers. Si tu veux prendre un match plutôt sérieux, tu peux prendre l'exemple de Ric Flair, par exemple.
Je vois.
Ça dépend de tout ce que tu veux raconter.
Je vois ce que tu veux dire. Ben, personnellement, franchement, en restant dans le sujet, après, je vais poser la question à Joe, évidemment. Personnellement, après, je te poserai également la question à toi, mais personnellement, moi, la rivalité, enfin, le match qui m'a le plus marqué à l'ancienne, c'était la rivalité vraiment, je m'en rappellerai toujours parce que pour moi, c'est l'une des meilleures rivalités à l'ancienne. Ça a été pour moi la rivalité entre Kane et l'Undertaker. Les 2 frères de la destruction, face à face, ça a été vraiment pour moi l'une des meilleures rivalités à l'ancienne. Et toi, Kevin, qu'est-ce que t'en penses?
Ouais, Kane Undertaker à l'ancienne, moi je me rappelle surtout c'est le premier match qui m'a marqué, c'était Shawn Michaels Ric Flair. What is for you the best match? For example, for Chris, it is Kane. One of the best rivalries was Kane against The Undertaker, and for me it was Shawn Michaels against Ric Flair in 2008.
As far as like great match or best rivalry?
Yeah.
Best rivalry. Oh golly. To me, because maybe I grew up on it, it's one of the reasons I got so interesting. Savage Steamboat. I just loved that whole program. I was a huge Macho Mark. I loved Savage. I think the Hulk Hogan Roddy Piper rivalry was spectacular because it kicked off the incredible wrestling boom in the 80s. I don't know if it would have kicked off with any other 2 guys. There's a certain magic between Piper and Hogan. And I wound up becoming quite good friends with Roddy. So, you know, maybe I'm biased because I like Rod so much as a person. But that was a tremendous rivalry. I mean, Austin Rock.
Okay. Yeah. Steve Austin versus The Rock. Yeah. With Vince McMahon and his family. Yeah.
Yeah. I thought Taker and Mankind was a good rivalry.
Yeah. Mick Foley and The Undertaker. Yeah.
Sure. And just, you know, Flair Sting, Flair Steamboat. Like, Flair Steamboat was just brilliant as far as elevating the status of the belt.
Yeah.
Like, they both were killing each other because they wanted that belt so much, you know? It wasn't about, I'm going to kill this guy in front of me because he's a threat. It's, I've got to kill this guy because I want that belt. You know, like it elevated the status of the belt. Whereas you had like Stan Hansen and Misawa in All Japan. It was for the belt. It was also, I'm American, I'm going to destroy Japan. And I'm the Japanese. I'm going to defend Japan against the evil American killer cowboy. So those were good rivalries. Yeah, Kawaki, Stan Hansen, Jay were the pretty match.
Yeah.
Kawada. I don't know how many of your viewers are going to know about this Japanese. I love the Japanese style.
Yeah.
Even the Harley race from Ric Flair. I'm a big Harley guy. I think Harley was so good. The Bret Shawn Mike kind of the attitude era, you know?
Yeah.
Shawn is quality. Bret and Steve Austin made Steve Austin. That's a hell of a
Yeah. Yeah, Steve Austin.
Yeah, they did a lot of great matches.
Yeah, so a lot of
Steve
great
Austin,
rivalries.
one of the best heel of all time.
For the NWA, the Midnight Express, Rock and Roll Express, there's very little you can do to top that rivalry. That was brilliantly handled all the time. Those guys never had a bad match together.
Yeah. I say that Steve Austin, one of the best heel of all time. Comme me disait en off Kevin tout à l'heure, c'est l'un des mecs qui est capable clairement de s'opposer carrément au patron. C'est l'un des seuls mecs à venir clairement expliquer au patron qu'il est pas content en fait. Et ça c'est... Franchement, faut avoir... excusez-moi de l'expression, mais faut avoir des couilles. Clairement...
He is the only wrestler to have the balls to fight Mr. McMahon, who is the boss of WWE.
Yeah, I suppose. Rock had a match. Hulk had a match against McMahon at WrestleMania.
Yeah.
And Shane killed his dad at one point.
Yeah.
With Trump as well, if I remember correctly. I think gave Vince a stunner or something. I don't know. But yeah, Vince was a pretty top bad guy that, you know, you could make a babyface by putting him against Vince.
Yeah. Yeah, my best moment of Steve Austin is a promo after winning the King of the Ring tournament.
Oh, and the 316 promo?
Yeah.
Yes.
The
yes,
legendary
yes.
316
Game-changing.
promo. Yeah.
Apparently that was Jake the Snake's idea.
Yeah.
Because Jake was he found religion, and he didn't have Damien anymore. He had his stake was a thing called Revelations, and he was a big Christian at that point. And so he used that. He said, yeah, you know, I see John 3:16, you know, football, basketball, baseball games. You see people with John 3:16 stuff. He said, what if you talk about Austin 3:16?
Yeah.
Austin's like, okay. And then it worked so well, but apparently that was and Jake's brilliant. In fairness, I toured England quite a bit with him, and I a show in Toronto as well. And if you talk wrestling with him, it's just brilliant. We did a 6-man tag it was a tag, but it wound up 2 guys ran in. It was me and Kizarni Sin. I don't know what name he's using right now, but he was Kizarni in WWF. Nick is his real name. He's a good guy. So there's Nick and I against Tatanka and Joe Gomez, who does the same kind of Indian gimmick from Florida. We did this tag match, then Doug Williams did the run-in towards the end of the match. And then Jake came out and DDT'd a couple of guys. I think he DDT'd Nick and he DDT'd Doug. I didn't get DDT'd. I know that much. But the place went crazy. But we pieced the match together backstage. Jake was just sitting to the side not saying a word. And we got this whole match. He goes, okay, I think that'll work. What do you think, Jake? Jake kind of looks up half drunk. He was at the time. And he goes, what about this, and this? And he's like, give us 4 questions. We're like, what? He goes, you answer those 4 questions, it'll change everything. And we sat back and we answered those 4 questions on match structure. It's like, oh my God, our match sucked before we answered those questions. And once we answered those questions, because that's how smart Jake was, he could just simply throw out 4 little questions, just little tiny things, but all of a sudden the whole match is 1,000 times better.
Okay.
So if Jake had come to me and said, yeah, Legend 316, try it, I wouldn't have said no, because Jake's brilliant. Talk about stuff other than wrestling is a bit of an oddball, but talk about wrestling, absolute genius.
Yeah.
En fait, Jake, c'était vraiment un génie dans le sens où si tu parlais autre chose que du catch, il peut te paraître bête, on va dire. Mais vraiment, si tu parlais de catch avec lui, il te montrait que c'était vraiment un génie. En te posant juste 4 petites questions, il pouvait te rendre ton match encore meilleur. Et il a eu ça en faisant un match dans lequel où Jake lui a posé ces 4 questions. Il s'est rendu compte qu'en fait, son match au début, le match qu'il avait construit au début, n'était pas si bon que ça. Et avec ces 4 petites questions, il a fait un meilleur match en fait.
Ah, c'est clair. Franchement, moi, honnêtement, bon, tu traduiras, je pense. Mais honnêtement, moi, personnellement, quelqu'un qui est capable de voir, enfin, c'est mieux de voir ses erreurs soi-même, on est d'accord. Je veux dire qu'un coach qui est capable de voir les erreurs que tu fais, et même si tu viens de débuter le catch, et ou alors que t'es bon, que t'es déjà professionnel, que t'as déjà fait quelques matchs, quelqu'un qui est capable, du coup, de ramener de l'importance à quelqu'un, même s'il est tout en bas de l'échelle, et de le ramener en haut. Pour moi, c'est ça un coach. C'est vraiment quelqu'un qui est capable de laisser ses problèmes de côté, de mettre tout le monde dans le même sac et de leur faire, comment dire, de les faire grandir en fait, tout simplement. Tu vois, c'est important.
One of the best thing of a coach is when a wrestler is beginning wrestling and you are training him, and then a lot of years after, if you succeed, you can tell you that you have did a great job because he succeeded in what you in wrestling, and he learned a lot about you from you.
Can't be. Sometimes it's just the guy happens to be really, really good. Like, you know Alex Shelley and Chris Sabin?
Yeah.
The Motor City Machine Guns? Right.
Yes.
I trained them a while back when I was teaching at the wrestling school in Windsor. They were 2 of my students. I thought they were the best team. I still do think they're the best team in the business. They're fantastic. And they tell people I'm their trainer or stuff like that, and I'm flattered. The thing is they were already really good when I got there. I gave them new stuff and helped them along and improved their, some of the stuff they did, and gave them some new ideas and just brought a different slant to it. But they were always going to be good. They were always going to be really good. I'm glad I could be of help to them, for sure. But I think that they were so talented that if I was there or if I wasn't there, they were going to do well. I'm just glad that I was able to, to be a little part of that, because I think they're exceptional. And they're good people. Really good people.
Yes, they're a great team now.
Yeah, fantastic.
Vous savez quoi, les amis, on va parler de quelque chose de vraiment...
Motor City Machine Guns, Alex Shelley et Chris Sabin.
Yeah, on salue évidemment
en fait,
Chris Sabiens et Alex Shelley, on les salue.
Quand il a commencé à les entraîner, ils étaient déjà très bons. Alors, il pense que vraiment, qu'il ait été là ou pas, ça aurait pas changé grand-chose. Dans le sens où ils étaient déjà très bons et ils allaient déjà réussir pour lui sans son aide. Mais il a pu leur donner beaucoup d'idées et leur donner beaucoup de conseils qui ont pu les aider à vraiment progresser au mieux dans ce domaine.
Ouais, j'imagine. D'ailleurs, on va parler du même sujet, mais avec pas du tout les mêmes superstars. Bon, j'ai tout le respect possible pour Chris Sabin et Alex Shelley, que j'aime beaucoup, hein. Franchement, c'est 2 catcheurs exceptionnels. Mais on va parler quand même de légende. Et là, on va vraiment parler du terme légende. On va parler évidemment des 3 personnes, et après il y en a beaucoup, mais 3 personnes principales que tout le monde attend dans cette vidéo, c'est Rhino, Edge et Christian. Comment ça a commencé cette rencontre avec ces 3 légendes qui ont tous les 3 une personnalité totalement différente. On a d'un côté Rhino, le rhinocéros, on a Ed the Rated or Superstar, et on a évidemment Christian, l'homme qui a le charisme le plus grand.
How did you meet Edge, Christian and Rhino?
Well, Edge and Christian are both from Orangeville, which is north of Toronto, about 45 minutes. The wrestling school Ron and Siki ran did a contest in the newspaper saying, write an essay saying why you want to be a wrestler, and we'll review them, and the best essay gets free training. So Adam, Edge, won the contest. So he started training at the gym, and Christian desperately wanted to, but he couldn't afford it. Because I think it was like $3,000 or $4,000. So Christian waited. He got a student loan to go to college, and then he took that money and used it for wrestling school. So he started about a year after Edge. Edge started about a year after me. So I'd met him, we'd hung out a little bit, but I went off and wrestled in Japan and then Winnipeg. And then by the time I come back from Winnipeg, my buddy Keith was saying, yeah, you should hang out with this Adam. He's a really good guy. And we've been hanging out every weekend. So then we just started hanging out and being buddies. And then I came up with the idea of a tag team for him and me called Sex and Violence. Him clearly not being violence. And me clearly not being sex. So we kind of got that over. And then I got us booked on a show in Oshawa for Bill Scully and Outlaw Championship Wrestling. And then we're winning the tag belts. And then we were in this cage battle royal and stuff. But they brought in a bunch of the guys from Detroit, including a referee named A.T. Huck, who's one of the best people I know. Fantastic guy. So Huck refereed the show, and at the end of the show, he's like, listen, do you guys want to come to Detroit? Edge, Christian, you guys want to come? Or, Legend, Edge, you want to come? He was called Sexton Hardcastle at the time. Do you want to come to Detroit? So I said, yeah, sure. So we started going to Detroit, and we were able to bring El Fuego, who's one of our students at the school, a student as I was. I didn't train him. I helped a little bit. And Johnny Swinger.
Yeah.
So we started going down to Detroit and getting our bookings there. They put the tag belts on us there. They gave us the Midwest tag belts and the street fight tag belts. So we were kind of the dominant team down there. And that's where Rhino was working because he lived 15 minutes from where we were wrestling. So we saw him at the show all the time. And then we started staying at his place when we go down there. We also had a manager, Johnny Bradford, wrestling's only deaf manager. Fantastic guys. Still great friends with him to this day. And we'd stay at his place too. But we used to stay at Rhino's place a lot. And then we came up with the idea of this pro-Canadian anti-American team called Thug Life. So it looked like they were breaking me and Adam up as a team. And they main evented a show with me versus Adam. And, we had a really good match. I'm really happy. To this day, I'm really happy with it. And then towards the end of the match, Christian comes in and says, hey, come on, guys. You guys are supposed to be friends. You can't let these stupid Americans get day down, da-da-da-da-da-da. And then some of the Detroit guys got in the ring and, hey, screw you, Canadian pieces of crap. Tell us America sucks. Then Rhino came in to join our side, and we started Thug Life. So then we were the four Canadians who were, burning the flag in the ring, burning the American flag in the ring and stuff. And then 3 weeks later, Bret Hart started his anti-American pro-Canadian angle on WWF and made ours look weak because he had all the TV behind him. But we were still 3 weeks ahead of the curve. I'm happy about that. And then Rhino got booked to Germany in 97. And then in 98, he got me booked in Germany. So he and I were tag team in Germany. And we won the tag belts for the CWA. And so we ended up getting a good run there for a while. And that's how I ended up moving over to Europe. Because I started with CWA and got to work in Germany and Austria. Went home, signed with WWF, did my WWF run. And then as soon as I was done there, I came back over to Europe.
Yeah. So I think you know Edge better than everyone.
Christian knows him better than anybody. They've been best friends since they were kids. Christian knows him better. Probably Kazarni too. Kazarni was really good friends with him for years. He's from Orangeville as well. So those guys are particularly close. They might as well be brothers. I know it's an angle on TV. Edge and Christian are brothers, but legitimately, I don't know two brothers who are closer than Edge and Christian are just really good friends.
Yeah.
Alors, il sait que Edge et Christian, le fait qu'on dise à la télé, à WWE, qu'ils sont frères, c'est une histoire, c'est pas vrai, mais vraiment, t'avais l'impression qu'il n'y avait pas plus proche qu'Edge et Christian, et limite, c'était vraiment frères.
Ah, mais j'imagine, ça se voit de toute façon, les câlins qui se font, la passion qu'on voit dans leurs yeux, la manière,
surtout,
la manière dont ils
en
catchent
fait,
ensemble,
là,
surtout.
ce que j'ai retenu, c'était comment il a raconté Edge et Christian, c'est que Edge et Christian, il les a rencontrés lors d'un tournoi, c'est-à-dire il y avait un tournoi qui était organisé dans leur ville, et ce tournoi, il disait, fallait faire en gros sorte de rapport écrit où il faut dire pourquoi tu veux être catcheur. Et en gros, si t'avais le meilleur discours convaincant, on va dire
Ah, c'est comme à l'école, en gros, si vraiment...
tu gagnais
ouais,
voilà, un peu à l'école. Et en gros, c'est Edge et Christian qui ont gagné ce tournoi. Joey Legend, il était, mais il n'a pas gagné. C'est Edge et Christian qui les a gagnés. Et le problème, c'est que Christian, vu qu'il n'avait pas d'argent, il pouvait pas se payer vraiment les entraînements.
Ah.
Alors, disons qu'il a travaillé, il a eu la bourse de l'école, il a commencé l'entraînement 1 an après Edge.
Ah, ok.
1 an après lui. Et Edge a commencé l'entraînement 1 an après Joey Legend.
Ok.
Et le truc, c'est que ils ont formé, c'est qu'à un moment, ils ont fait un show au Canada où le main event c'était Joe Legend contre Edge. Et il y avait ils ont créé une petite storyline où t'as Christian qui venait à la fin, qui les séparait, qui disait arrêtez de vous disputer, on est frères, on est tous Canadiens, on devrait tous se mettre ensemble et casser la gueule à ces putains d'Américains. Une guerre Amérique contre Canada. Et ce qu'il disait, c'est que c'était un peu une coïncidence, mais 3 semaines après, t'as Bret Hart qui commence une gimmick avec le WWF où il dit être canadien et qu'il est anti-américain. En gros, Bret Hart, il a en quelque sorte volé cette gimmick, quoi.
The best there is, the best there was, and the best ever will be. Bret Hart. Yeah. Yeah. Honnêtement, je pense clairement, peut-être, je dis bien peut-être, maybe one day, Team Legend, Edge, Christian, Rhino, and you, Joe, will be reunited. One day.
Well, maybe, you never know. Like I said, I was in Detroit a year ago with Rhino. And we went, we did a couple of gigs together. I worked for him. He runs some charity shows in Detroit, just outside Detroit, Monroe. So I worked for him for that and for a couple of my old-time friend promoters that I used to work for all the time in Michigan. Then he and I drove down to New York to do a autograph signing thing. Then New Jersey, we did a show, drove back. I did some stuff in Canada in that trip. But a lot of it was just me and Rhino hanging out. So if nothing else, I know WWE is pretty strict with their contracts as far as Edge and Christian go. But there's every chance Rhino and I will probably team up again at some point.
Alors le problème c'est qu'on va dire la WWE sont plus stricts avec les contrats et donc laisser Edge et Christian faire des matchs, on va dire, dans les fédérations indépendantes, c'est pas trop possible, tu vois.
C'est très compliqué.
Et le truc c'est que voilà, avec Rhino, il a déjà fait des shows de charité organisés par Rhino, il a déjà signé des autographes avec Rhino et tout, et Rhino et lui ils s'entendent très bien, mais ces dernières années, ils se voient, mais plutôt en tant que Camille, pas en tant que catcheur, tu vois. Ils catchent plus trop, c'est juste, ils catchent plus trop ensemble, c'est juste, ils se voient entre potes.
Ouais, j'imagine. Ça doit être vraiment intense quand même d'être pote avec des légendes comme ça doit être bizarre quand même tous les jours quand même un peu.
C'est vrai.
It would be strange to be friend with Rhino, Edge, Christian, and every single friend you have.
Just people you meet on the road. I mean, what's it? Like Drew McIntyre.
Yeah, I know. I know that many.
I toured with Sheamus. What's his name? Who's Seth Rollins does the curb stomp.
Yeah.
He got that me on a show we were on together in Austria.
Okay.
I invented that thing in Windsor, the curb stomp.
Yeah.
And used it on a show in Austria, and he was on it. He was still known as Tyler Black, I think, at the time.
Yeah.
And after he came up to me, and like, he's a real nice guy. He says, "What? I like that stomp move you did." I'm like, "Oh, thanks." Turns out a lot. So
Very dangerous.
Yeah.
Very dangerous move.
You meet all these people on the way, and WWF, because they're so big now, and because they have the NXT and they have the NXT UK and they have all these other brands, you're gonna meet tons of people who float in and out of having a contract with in some way with WWF. Not to mention AEW is pretty open with working with other promotion.
Yeah.
And I know like Shan, the Portuguese lady wrestler, I think she lives, if I'm not mistaken, she still lives in France. So you'll probably come across her on events because she's, so talented. And, she's a talented, beautiful, excellent performer. And she's on AEW all the time, but she lives in France, so chances are you'll see her on French shows. So you'll bump into people like that, and it doesn't become as big a deal.
Yeah.
When I met a couple of WWF, I was like, oh my gosh. When I first met Bad News Al, I'm like, oh, holy crap. When I first met Marty Jannetty, I was like, I didn't even recognize him. Because he cut his hair. I was used to him having long hair.
Yeah.
And at first, it's kind of a, oh my gosh, deal. But then after a while, it's just like, oh, we're all doing the same job.
Yeah, I know Marty Jannetty and Shawn Michaels, former champions together.
Yeah. The Rockers, yeah.
Yeah.
Rockers in AWA.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kevin, tu t'en rappelles du coup toi de Marty Jannetty et Shawn Michaels à
Ah
l'ancienne?
ouais, c'était avec surtout de la scène où t'as Shawn Michaels qui était chez le barbier avec Marty Jannetty où il trahit complètement.
Ah oui, je me rappelle, il lui met
there is a storyline where
Shawn Michaels
was on the barber shop.
betrayal Marty Jannetty with a switch in music for the first time, and Marty Jannetty passed away in the
glasses.
The glasses, yeah.
Yeah, put him through the glass, yeah.
Yeah.
It was a big deal at the time. Very few teams broke up like that at the time.
Yeah, Triple H and Michaels, DX.
Like that.
Triple H, be jealous.
Everybody breaks up hard now. Like very few teams just kind of split and go their own way. Like the Hart Foundation just kind of split and went their own way. They didn't really feud when they broke up.
Yes.
Like, when Bret won the big belt, then they did the jealousy angle, and Anvil was fighting for the belt. But overall, like they broke up amicably. You didn't have the Road Warriors break up and fight each other. You didn't have Demolition break up and fight each other. But when the Rockers did that, it was such a oh my god moment that I think the company saw money in that, and now every team when they break up has to break up like. It's an end of an era. No, what a bastard! Jumped with his friend. It's got to become that as opposed to just teams breaking up amicably.
Yeah.
En fait, le truc c'est qu'avant les grandes équipes qui se séparaient plutôt amicalement, genre on veut plus être ensemble, on se met plus ensemble. Il n'y avait pas de storyline où il y en avait un qui trahissait l'autre. Et là, Shawn Michaels et Marty Jannetty, c'était l'une des premières fois où tu en avais un qui trahissait l'autre. Et t'avais du coup plein de gens qui étaient choqués du coup logiquement, et tout le monde disait que c'était la fin d'une ère, c'est pas possible qu'il ait fait ça, et ils ont pu vendre, la WWE a pu vendre comme ça beaucoup de marchandises, ils ont pu gagner beaucoup d'argent grâce à cette storyline en fait.
Ouais, c'est vrai que d'ailleurs en parlant de ça, il y a tellement de storylines que je pourrais raconter qui m'ont choqué. Bon, je vais en citer 5 pour le LOL. Premièrement, The Rockers, évidemment, Shawn Michaels qui trahit Marty Jannetty, ça a été l'une des premières qui m'a choqué. Après, évidemment, il y a Triple H qui était jaloux justement de Shawn Michaels et qui le trahit littéralement après un match. Il y a également The Shield.
Teams that split up like Shawn Michaels and Triple H.
Yeah.
Il y a également Seth Rollins betrayed the Shield for become the associate to Triple H. Every OMG moment over the team because 60% of team betrayal because he's jealous over the talents, he's jealous over the pop of this partner. And no, Triple H betrayal Shawn Michaels because Shawn Michaels is very, very important for the people, and the people doesn't want to love Triple H with Shawn Michaels.
Yeah, it's a hot way to put heat on an angle to get a feud going.
Yeah.
Easy way. You just got to have confidence as to which person on the team the crowd's going to go with, and which person on the team the crowd's going to go against. And then when you break them up, you can really push them in the correct direction. I think a lot of times, though, they do the breakups where it's just like, well, we're not doing anything with this team, let's break them up. And they can fight each other, and we'll use them on TV. And they don't know who the crowd's going to go with, who the crowd's going to go against. They don't know who's going to succeed in their role as a heel or a face. Because they think, if it doesn't work, we'll just turn them back. I think that's a mistake. I think you have to listen to the crowd. Because ultimately the crowd will tell you what's working and what's not with their money. If they're not spending money on your product, it means they don't like what you're doing. So you should listen to them. Because they're the ones paying your bills.
En fait, il faut vraiment écouter le public. C'est-à-dire, quand une compagnie veut séparer une équipe, il ne va pas le faire n'importe comment en choisissant en pif qui va être heel, qui va être face. Celui qui va être face, on va dire, c'est surtout celui qui sera celui dont on sait qu'il est le plus apprécié du public.
Normal.
On sait que c'est lui qui va être trahi, puisque ça va être le face. Et celui qui trahira, donc qui sera le heel, c'est le moins apprécié. Et le truc, c'est que si tu n'écoutes pas ce que tu dis au public, le public achètera moins tes produits, et donc ça se verra. Sur la vente, ça se verra. Tu gagneras moins, et donc ce sera moins bénéfique pour toi. Donc il faut vraiment écouter le public sur ce point-là.
Pour ceux qui nous rejoignent et qui assistent pour la première fois à une interview du Report, et pour ceux qui veulent probablement plus tard se mettre au catch, vraiment le public est vraiment la source principale des catcheurs. C'est-à-dire que sans public, c'est vraiment compliqué de catcher. On le voit actuellement à la WWE, c'est là où on voit justement quand même que, comme dirait une référence désormais de la WWE, pour ceux qui l'ont pas vu, mais Eli Drake a récemment signé avec la WWE, et il l'a cité pendant sa promo que la WWE est vraiment la compagnie qui accueille les meilleurs superstars, et ce n'est pas faux. Et clairement, quand on voit qu'ils sont capables de catcher sans public, c'est là où vraiment on voit que c'est des professionnels. N'est-ce pas, Kevin?
Faut toujours s'adapter, on va dire, à des situations exceptionnelles comme ça. Ils n'ont pas le choix, on va dire, pour continuer à vivre. C'est leur boulot, surtout. Donc on va dire qu'ils n'ont pas forcément le choix.
On va demander à Joe qu'est-ce qu'il en pense.
What do you think of the current situation about the fact that there is no people in the attendance?
Yeah.
I hate it.
The current situation of the WWE with the Thunderdome.
Yeah, I hate it. I don't like it at all. Maybe it's the president in the future of the business, and I'm just old and set in my ways. That's a distinct possibility. But I prefer a live audience. I like the reaction of a live audience. I like the feel. There's an atmosphere at a wrestling show. When there's a full house and the place going crazy, and it's just so much different than looking at a bunch of screens. I don't care. I understand why they're doing it, obviously, because the lockdowns have, really messed with everybody. But to me, it's just not the same thing. It'll make things hard for Drew McIntyre if they were to open the doors tomorrow and say, all right, we're letting fans in. It'll be harder to get Drew McIntyre over now than if there had been an audience the whole time. I have a feeling that the minute they open the doors, they're going to say, all right, well, this is the new WWF. We better get some new people on top.
Yeah.
And Drew's not going to get the credit he deserves for being as good as he is. I like Drew.
Yeah.
And same with Roman Reigns. Like Roman Reigns won't get the wow, what a monster force in the business this guy is.
Yeah.
Because you could never see what he could draw from a crowd. Because the rug was pulled out from under him as far as, okay, he's a main event, he's the champ, he's the heel. What can he draw? We don't know. So it's gonna chip away at what their meaning to the business is. And I think everybody should have a chance to be as meaningful as they can. It's a shame that this stupid lockdown nonsense is gonna chip away at a bunch of guys' legacies. Guys go in this business and get in that position to try and have a legacy. And the lockdown's gonna affect how people perceive it, which is a shame because they don't work really hard.
Yeah.
Alors, en fait, les gens, le fait qu'on se passe au Thunderdome, ça change vraiment la perception des gens sur justement les catcheurs dans le sens où ils pensent que McIntyre ou Roman Reigns n'auraient pas la même réaction s'il y aurait eu du public. Peut-être qu'ils auraient eu une meilleure réaction, mais le problème c'est que là on pourrait pas le voir. Là on peut pas le voir dans le sens où il y a le Thunderdome. Donc ils pensent vraiment que des gens comme Roman Reigns ou McIntyre n'ont pas vraiment ce qu'ils méritent.
C'est ça.
Le fait qu'il n'y ait pas de public.
D'ailleurs, en parlant de ça, clairement, je vois beaucoup de réactions sur des changements parce que lorsque des catcheurs passent de face à heel, lorsqu'ils changent leur personnalité pour le bien de leur personnage ou parce qu'ils trahissent ou parce qu'ils rejoignent une faction, je vois par exemple le cas de Roman Reigns par exemple, où pendant des années, il était face avec son rôle de Samoan. Après, il a eu le Shield. Après, il y a eu la trahison du Shield avec Seth Rollins. Il y a eu cette grosse rivalité autour du Shield où vraiment on voyait qu'il se haïssait, limite avec Dean Ambrose qui se faisait littéralement des vannes. Vraiment.
Okay,
Yes.
okay.
So.
Ouais, il faut faire vite parce qu'il s'occuper de l'enfant en fait.
Yes, on est de retour les amis, donc il nous reste 3 questions pour Joey Legend, donc ça fait vraiment plaisir. Donc s'il y a eu beaucoup de messages dans la vidéo, vous inquiétez pas, c'est le travail, j'ai beaucoup de travail, donc évidemment les gens m'envoient des messages, donc si vous voyez des messages apparaître, c'est normal. Donc il nous reste 3 questions pour Joey Legend, des questions plutôt importantes. Donc n'hésitez pas à mettre des pouces bleus, à vous abonner, commenter, partager. Et n'hésitez pas à aller sur le site, je mettrai un lien dans les commentaires pour ceux qui veulent aller sur le site de W3L pour acheter le t-shirt de Joey Legend. Parce que quand même, faut avoir un petit peu de respect pour lui. Et puis, il prend un peu de son temps pour nous. Donc, la moindre des choses, c'est qu'on achète son t-shirt. N'est-ce pas, Kevin? Kev?
C'est ça, on va faire ça comme il faut.
Donc voilà, donc je mettrai un lien dans la description.
Beaucoup de questions.
Je mettrai un petit lien dans la description. Vous allez juste cliquer dessus, c'est très simple, cliquez dessus. Et puis vous pourrez aller sur, tout simplement sur la chaîne, sur la page de W3L pour acheter Buy the W3L Joey Legend New T-shirts. Yeah.
Yep. W3LWrestling.com.
Yeah.
It's on their merchandise.
Yeah.
They've done a really nice job. I really like them. They're pretty nice shirts.
Yeah.
It's a great shirt.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
I thought they did a good job.
J'ai une vraie question que je me pose personnellement. Moi, si je devais citer ma prise favorite, c'est dur parce qu'il y en a beaucoup, il y a beaucoup de prises. Mais vraiment, moi, si on parle en général, moi vraiment, j'aime beaucoup tous les styles de catch. Parce que, comme j'ai dit, ça fait plus de 15 ans que je regarde le catch. Et du coup, tous les styles de catch, je les connais maintenant. Et vraiment, on va dire que mes styles de catch favoris, c'est le high fly et la technique. Donc moi, je suis plus high flyer et technique. Kevin, toi, t'es plus brutal, n'est-ce pas? On t'entend
C'est ça,
pas, Kevin.
plus brutal, on va dire, plus du côté poids lourd.
Tu as dit quoi avant, parce qu'on t'entendait pas?
Et plutôt dans le style brutal.
Ok,
Et plutôt style brutal et poids lourd, comme t'as dit.
ok. Joe,
Yes.
me, my special wrestling favorite move,
Et
or
alright,
characters is I fly
flying at the
or
technical.
technical. Kevin is, brutal,
More
and
brutal and
big man,
heavyweight style.
heavyweight. And so your favorite, style of wrestling?
My favorite style of wrestling, I would say overall, I would just call believable. Like, I know Rey Mysterio is like a huge star, and I like him as a person. He's a really nice guy. But his style is nothing I would personally be interested in watching, because it doesn't look like he's fighting. It looks like he's doing a lot of cool stuff, and the guy he's working with is helping. I like matches that look like, well, these two are really kicking off. This could be getting ugly. Like, maybe it's old school, but I always like Stan Hansen and Harley Race, like old school tough guys who knew how to wrestle, or could thug things out. People believed them. They believe these guys could probably do some damage for real, and I like that. I like Austin was sort of believable that way. He was 100 miles an hour that way. Like, you looked at him and thought, this guy could probably fight.
Yeah.
And he had some interesting stuff, and he had great timing.
Yeah.
Always in shape. But he was so fast. Like, he'd do that Fez press, and he'd do those little punches that I thought, they're not for me. They look weak. But I'm one person in the audience. The other 16,000 people in the audience loved it. So you can't change his style to suit me. But I like ones where everything looks real and legitimate and committed. On the occasion, there's the occasional, like, I've always been partial to the moonsault and Frankenstein. I always love those moves.
Yeah.
They're not the most.
I flying maneuver. Yeah.
Yeah, they're not the most believable, but they're entertaining. And those are the exceptions to my rule of believability. I like believable as a foundation. I like a believable style. And then you can throw in some stuff that I can suspend my disbelief because I'm so entertained.
En fait, lui, ce qu'il dit, c'est que lui, il a un style, comment on peut définir ça, un style plutôt réel, dans le sens où, par exemple, Rey Mysterio, ce qu'il fait, c'est très bien, il est très athlétique, tout ça, mais t'as pas l'impression qu'il combat, t'as plus l'impression qu'il fait plus des trucs pour être beau, quoi. C'est plus des trucs qui sont beaux, mais t'as pas l'impression qu'il combat vraiment. T'as l'impression juste son adversaire, il l'aide et voilà, il se prend les couilles, c'est tout. T'as pas vraiment l'impression d'assister à un vrai combat. Et lui, ce qu'il aime, c'est quand le match a l'air réel, où t'as vraiment l'impression d'un vrai combat, comme on peut le dire dans la rue, par exemple. Pas des trucs à high fly que tu verrais normalement, non. Des trucs vraiment réels.
Joe, like the real match, no holds barred, street fight match, extreme rules.
It can be, but then I'm not big on a lot of what street fight has become. There's too many chair shots, too many table bumps, too many weapons, where it isn't believable. Because if I were to brain you with a chair, there's no way you're coming back to fight me for 10 straight minutes after that. There's got to be a happy medium. I like, if it were to look like a contest, like that's why I like the Flair Steamboat one so much, because they just, two guys who are killing each other to try and get the belt. I like stuff like that, as opposed to tables, ladders, and chairs, and cages, and inferno matches, and all that. Like, I don't like a lot of the gimmicks. I like that. I'm somewhat of a traditionalist. I like two guys getting in there and looking like somebody wants to win for a reason.
En fait, lui, c'est quelqu'un plutôt de traditionnel, comme il a cité la série de matchs Flair Steamboat. C'était vraiment, ils se combattaient pour savoir vraiment qui était le plus fort. Et il a un problème, on va dire, avec les matchs plutôt hardcore, les street fight, etc. C'est parce que il aime pas trop ce genre de match, parce que, on va dire, si tu te prends un coup de chaise, Tu vas pas revenir après, direct après frapper les mecs. Non, non,
Ah bah oui,
tu vas
c'est pas
revenir, tu prends un
logique,
coup de
c'est pas
chest,
logique quand
t'es
tu te
mort.
prends un coup,
Non,
un coup de chest, t'es KO quoi, t'es sonné, t'es pas bien quoi, c'est normal.
voilà, c'est pas possible. Donc, pour lui, c'est un côté un peu fake, un peu
C'est un peu too
pas
much, comme on
réel.
dirait en anglais,
Voilà,
c'est un
c'est ça.
peu too much.
C'est ça, c'est ça. Et donc, lui, il préfère plutôt la compétition pure et dure comme les matchs Steamboat, Flair, ou c'est des matchs normaux, mais
Ok,
où il y avait un vrai combat. Et
ok,
il aime pas trop non plus aussi les matchs à gimmick, on va dire les matchs Inferno, des choses comme ça.
ok. Du coup, ben, personnellement, du coup, si on reste sur le sujet, ma prise favorite, c'est, moi, je pense que, honnêtement, c'est les Casadora. J'aime beaucoup, ce mouvement, vraiment, voir le mec vraiment, venir, bloquer la personne pour en faire une prise, ou les prises vraiment comme ça, où tu vois que la personne, elle est capable de te retourner, te prendre dans une prise, peut-être même enchaîner avec une soumission. Vraiment, ce genre de prise technique, j'adore. Et toi, Kevin? Cave?
What's your favorite move?
Favorite move.
Yeah.
As far as just entertainment value as a kid, I just loved Macho Man's elbow off the top rope.
Yeah.
That used to excite the hell out of me. Most of the holds I know are nothing you see on TV. The ones that I really like, forearm lock and Border City stretch and stuff like that. I love those holds, but you never see them on TV, so I couldn't really explain them to you. But just the one that got me into the business, the one that really got me was Macho Man, because I was such a Macho Man. So
Yeah.
his elbow off the top rope always made me jump out of my seat as a kid.
Me, my favorite move is wheelbarrow, Casadora, wheelbarrow. So I love the maneuver with technical, with high flying, with turn up to the submission. I love this style of maneuver. So wheelbarrow, GTS, powerbomb, pie driver, so many maneuver I like, but I like high flying and technical maneuver. So
Yeah, I like all that stuff.
yeah, Kevin is very brutal maneuver.
Yes, I like more
Powerbomb,
like the powerbomb. I think
yeah.
it's my favorite because you can finish a match with just one powerbomb.
Yeah.
Yeah, one better powerbomb to finish the match. Yeah.
Oh, I like the powerbomb. Powerbomb's cool.
Yeah.
Especially done like Sid or Vader or something. Those guys had it over.
Yeah, Vader, Goldberg, Sting. Yeah.
Sid Vicious was good.
Sid's a good guy.
Yeah. So, Kevin, tu veux poser une autre question qui vraiment, que t'aimerais poser ou pas du tout?
Enchaînons avec les questions.
Bah, une dernière question, je pense que ça y est, on en est à la dernière question. Les amis, la dernière, donc vraiment, commencez, likez, commentez, partagez, abonnez-vous. Vraiment maintenant, c'est maintenant les gens. Vraiment, il faut que vous vous abonnez à ce que là, ça y est, Joe Legend. The last freaking question for Joe. So, if you come back in WWE, what the match you want with what the best man you want to face in WWE
Who would I want to face?
for your comeback, your great comeback?
Yeah, the comeback match, yeah. Who I think would give me the best match? Not to downplay anybody else. I could have I like to think I could have a good match with anybody. But I think I could really tear the house down with Daniel Bryan.
Daniel Bryan.
Yeah, I've wrestled him before in from Scotland and stuff like that. He's a real easy guy to work with. I lived in a house with him in Memphis. We toured Japan together. We toured Europe together. I've known Dan for ever. I've known him a long time. Since 2001, I've known Dan. He's a great guy. And I just think we have a similar idea of how a good match works. So it'd be very comfortable. I wouldn't have to try to convince him of stuff. He wouldn't have to try to convince me of stuff. We work in a very agreeable style. I think I would really have a good match with him again.
Yes. Yes. Kevin, toi personnellement, si tu, si,
Comme il dit, en fait, comme il dit, ils ont vraiment des styles complémentaires qui fait qu'ils n'ont pas vraiment de problème à se rencontrer sur le ring. Et ils ont d'ailleurs déjà fait un match ensemble il y a plusieurs années de cela en Écosse.
Ok.
Ils sont déjà affrontés.
Ok, ben, yeah. I see, for me, the greatest match for your comeback in WWE. I see the legends against the newcomer. I see 8-man tag team match. You and your team legend Christian. You, if Rhino come back, so you and your three men against Daniel Bryan, Nakamura, Shinsuke, Cesaro, and Kevin, tu veux rajouter quelqu'un que t'aimerais bien qui fait.
Logiquement, Sami Zayn avec.
Hein?
Logiquement, Sami Zayn avec.
Yeah, Nakamura, Cesaro, Bryan, and Zayn. Yeah, Canadian.
I'm not saying I've worked Cesaro before. Yeah, I'd love to work with him. He's was fun to work with. He's good.
Yeah.
Underrated.
Yeah. Will be a 8-man main event, so will be a great freaking match for your comeback.
Yeah. Well, I'm getting old. I don't know. I don't know how quick Vince wants to sign a 51-year-old to a contract.
Oh, Edge n'est pas loin. Il est pas loin quand même. Hein?
Yeah, Edge also has a big history with the company. They don't have to build him. They've already built him. He's just standing on what they built. They'd have to build him. I don't know if they figure I got that kind of time left in me.
if Rhino, if Rhino,
the money, I can't say I'd say no.
If
But
Rhino John,
they'll be offering you money anytime they're here.
if Rhino come back in WWE, if one day we still believe him. Yeah, money, big money, big money. Yeah. Kevin, est-ce que tu as une dernière question pour Joe?
If you would be able to manage a wrestler, who could be?
To manage a wrestler?
Yeah.
In WWE?
Yeah.
Yes, WWE.
Or every promotion in the world. Sting, Coach.
Machine Guns.
Machine Guns.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think I could
Shelly.
lend to that.
Yeah. Alex
Because
Shelley.
Shelley and Saban they're exceptional talents. I think I could lend to them with the mic work. I think I'd be an asset on the mic as a manager, as a Bobby Heenan type. Not
Okay.
saying I'm anywhere near Heenan. Bobby Heenan's the king.
Motor City Machine Guns. Yeah. Yeah, will be great to be to watching in TV. You come back with Motor City Machine Guns will be great.
En fait, il dit que c'est un peu.
I don't think Impact has the money to fly me over there from Germany every week, but who knows? Maybe they'll get a big investor one day. Elon Musk will
Yeah.
change the name from Impact to Amazon Wrestling, and then Jeff Bezos can start buying me airfares.
Yeah.
Vraiment, à part si Jeff Bezos lui paye à chaque fois les billets d'avion d'Allemagne jusqu'en Amérique, et il voit pas comment la TNA pourrait se permettre de lui payer à chaque fois les billets d'avion, tu vois.
Ah, ça va être compliqué, hein, ça va être compliqué, mais c'est pas impossible. Vu l'expérience qu'il a, ce n'est pas impossible.
It is not impossible.
It's not impossible
Like,
with the 30 years in experience you have.
yeah, 30 years of bumps behind me too. 2 new hips.
It's not impossible.
It's a long shot. Not impossible. Lottery's a long shot, but not impossible.
Yeah, yeah. So it'll be a pleasure for me to interview you for the first time in our channels.
Well, thank you for having me.
Yeah, so no problem. Kevin, qu'est-ce que tu veux rajouter?
Yeah, it was great the same time that we made an interview. We learned a lot about your experience. Thank you.
Si,
Thank you, guys.
si tu es d'accord, tu lui traduis, hein, Kev. Si tu es d'accord, on fera spécialement en exclusivité un entraînement avec Joe Legend en vidéo pour que vous voyez à peu près comment il entraîne, sa façon d'entraîner, sa façon de coacher, les conseils qu'il a à donner. Vraiment un vrai coaching en direct avec vous.
If you accept, we can do a video of one of your trainings in other ring, for example.
A video of what? I'm sorry?
Of trainings in other ring with
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, you coaching us or every student to come out in the Ozering and
Yeah.
and coaching everyone to your experience will be great to participate in this seminary once
I'm
again.
happy to do it.
Yeah, so will be great.
Jet, I have to call my dad in hospital here.
Yeah,
But I feel bad. I gotta get in touch with him. But thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
ça. On lui souhaite évidemment le meilleur.
You want to do a part? No.
Yeah, the better things
Thank you.
Tu voulais dire quelque chose, Ken?
Ah, c'est moi, je lui ai dit qu'on lui souhaitait le meilleur.
Yeah, better for your father, and
Thank you.
if you do, I came for help you. I'm go. So mans, les amis, merci à vous d'avoir regardé la vidéo. Thank you everyone to watching this video with Joey Legends, and see you to the training of coaching with Joe. And on vous souhaite une très bonne soirée évidemment. Et comme d'hab, on se retrouve très prochainement pour de nouvelles vidéos. Salut à tous.
Peace, guys. Thanks a lot.
Thanks.